Yeah, please do record into your computer. All right, let's get started, team. So yesterday we did set up the Active Directory domain services. We have created a virtual machine and we enable the DC, right? So today we'll log into the server, we will create user accounts and some of the groups. Then we'll try to synchronize them to the Azure AD using the Azure AD Connect tool. While while we synchronize, we'll go through a lot of options. And once synchronization is completed, we'll try to integrate or provide access to those users to different applications. That's the agenda for today's session. Okay. First, let me log into the machine and share the screen. Okay. I think I'll just share my screen. Hope you can see my screen. So there are two machines in my subscription, both of them in a stop status. Okay, I'm going to power on both of them. Do you know how much time it will take to power on the machine? Approximate time? It takes around 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Sometimes it takes more than 5 minutes as well. So starting from Azure portal sometimes may take time, but if you do it from PowerShell, it will take a little bit quick time. Okay, I'm starting both of them. You see the status is being changed from stop deallocated to starting. And if I go to the boot diagnostics, we will see what is the current status of the machine. It is Control Alt Delete. It's almost started. And we'll check this one as well. It is also started. And the time you are seeing is in UTC here. It's 2:47 Feb 4th. Oh my God, this seems to be a wrong date, right?
Yeah.
This is giving the wrong information. How about this? Okay, this is the latest one. I'm first time noticing this problem here. Okay, we can go to the serial logs to see what's going on here. Okay, some language which we are not able to understand. Computers booting. Something is initialized. Okay, it's in progress, still booting then. But strange thing is this one. I don't know how do I get rid of this. And you see, okay, now it is updated. We should always look at this then. That's what I learned today. Okay, when this screenshot is updated, this is updated now. So current time is in UTC is 2:06 a.m. And here looks like this is yesterday's one. Okay, you see here, this has to be refreshed. It's not refreshed yet. Okay, not yet. But this is not expected. What is the current status? I think it's done for both of them. So I'll go back to this, refresh here. It's not updating. Okay. This seems to be, maybe I need to refresh the page. Okay, still the same problem here. Okay, now you see it is keep on changing. It's applying computer settings. Okay, the status has been changed. So one thing you guys need to remember in Azure, when you're working with the Azure portal, you need to always remember to refresh the page. And sometimes you need to delete the cache settings and restart the browser. There are situations where I could not find the virtual machines in Azure portal. Okay, It was like for around 30 to 40 minutes, I could not found. I refreshed here, refreshed many times. I didn't find. Then I was like, who deleted these machines? It's production servers, and nobody faced any problem. I mean, connectivity issues or anything. I can only not seeing this VMs in Azure portal. This all just happens because of browser issues. It's not for one time, it's like a couple of times and a couple of users experience that problem. Okay, the status has been changed now. So I'll go to the virtual machines again. I'll go to this VM. This is my domain controller. We enabled the public IP for this machine yesterday. And I will take RDP to this machine. Okay, we did set the static IP yesterday. If you guys remember, while creating this public IP, or while creating this VM, we have given the public IP address. So that is why even the VM is in a stop and started, right? The status changed. The IP has not changed yet. So ideally, when you use the new IP, this username which I saved earlier will not show up here. Okay, so that's why I just able to recall this IP was static. I can quickly validate that. You can see it is static here. So all right, so let me just connect to this machine. You guys also can try to connect if you want to test this. It's a Azure user and one simple at 123. That's the password. And this is the IP address. Azure user. You can always use this to connect. Okay. So I'm inside the machine team. Yesterday we enabled domain controller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Active Directory domain services now. It's taking time to load. I think we should think about resizing this machine if it is very slow. It's very slow actually. Okay, let me just log into dsa.msc. This is the shortcut to log into Active Directory domain services, users and computers. Okay, we are into the Active Directory users and computers. If you are a L1 engineer in the Windows profile, you are going to start working on these activities day in, day out, where you are going to create user accounts, creating groups, providing access to the users and a specific folders and applications. If you are putting experience into IT, and you can just use this experience as a 1 year where you're going to create user accounts in different domain controllers and providing them access to a few applications or a few folders like this. Just create one user account. To create a user account, you need to right click on this organization unit. Okay, this is called organization unit. These are the organization units, built-in users, built-in accounts. If there are any VMs or laptops or computers joined to this domain, you can see them here. And if there are any other domain controllers in your domain, you can see them here. Likewise, each organization unit has its own features or capabilities. So we are going to focus on users, and we can also create a new organization unit as well. So what we'll do is we'll create a few user accounts here in the user section, and we'll also create a new organization unit. Okay, right click on this, click on new. I'm going to click on new user. Okay, I'm going to say username is Vishal. Okay, and the logon name for the Vishal is going to be this. Okay, click next, and I should set the password. I'm going to uncheck this. User must change the password as the next logon. Okay. All right. I've given the sample password, one simple at 123. I can add Vishal to different groups in the organization, If there are any security groups that we created for us providing access to specific files and folders, we can add them, or we can also add him to different groups like domain administrator who can who is going to have more access into the domain. Okay, just search with this. You'll see domain admins groups, and there is something called enterprise admin as well. This is like more privileged access. So we have enterprise admin, key admins, and read-only domain controllers. But I'm going to add enterprise admins credentials. Okay, apply and click OK. So what we can also do is we can create a new groups as well. Click on new group, and we can say this can be a universal group. Group name, let's say AD users. Okay. And this is a security group, not the distribution group list. Distribution group list should have the email ID. We don't have the email ID, so I'm going to create a security group. Okay, so for this group, I can add the users. I can add Vishal to this group also, so that I can provide access to this group to specific application. I can also create another group team, let's say AD users. Okay, I think Azure users. So whoever is part of whoever is going to be synchronized to Azure and whoever is needs access to Azure portal, we can add them to this group. Okay, I'll tell you the importance of this. I'm going to add Vishal to this group now. Okay, and this is your L1 Windows administration job. Okay, which you should be aware of it. Okay, so Azure users, and I'm going to create couple of users. Okay, let's I will copy this user account so that I get the same groups added, so that I don't need to add multiple times. Okay, I'm going to say the new username is Viman. Okay, so here Viman, click next, and the same password I'm going to give. You see the password reset option is not checked because for Vishal account we did not set that. Since we are copying, the same settings are fetched automatically. Okay, so if I open this Viman's account and go to member of, you see he is part of all Azure users and AD users, domain admin, enterprise admin, groups, right? So likewise, I'm going to create one more account. Okay, let's say user account. I think I have to just change this. Yeah, so let's say Josna. Okay, here I have to uncheck this. You guys can log into the server and start creating your own user accounts and start practicing this. Okay, Josna is just a member. Okay, I'm not going to add to any other groups. Likewise, we need to create a couple of users, okay, to test it. Okay, and we can also create a new organization unit. Click on Q new and say organizational unit, and I'm going to say cloud users OU. Okay, so you have this created, and now I can create new users here as well. Okay, I'm going to say Murli and Krishna. All right, Murli. So a couple of user accounts I'm creating here. We can also perform a couple more operations here. We have another machine which is part of the same VNet, I believe. So we can just join this VM to the same domain. Okay, so DevOps RG VNet, even this VM also in the DevOps RG VNet. What we will do is we'll log into this machine and join this machine to the domain. So let me try that. Okay, this is the another machine. I'm going to join this machine to the domain. I'm going to say Azure user. Dot backslash Azure user. Yes. just to perform a couple of Windows admin tasks. I'm going to show you this. If you are a Windows L1 engineer, you are going to join your users computers to the domain, or you're going to join few newly built server to the domain. So manually like this, okay? And you're going to create few user accounts, few security groups or distribution groups, and you will give access to users on a specific folders or files or applications, especially in the file servers, okay? So I'm noticing something here, okay? No network access is what it is saying. I really do not know what it is. First time I'm seeing. Now it has come online. Uh, in Azure, these things are happening. Let's see what it is. First, what we will do is we'll try to join this server to the domain. So in the Azure, if the VMs are in Azure, okay, guys, you might see some issues where this server is not able to reach the domain controller. So that is why always you need to ensure that the virtual network where these machines are located, right? You need to go to the virtual network and update the DNS server IP address here. You need to remember this. There could be some questions from the interviews as well. So I have the VM, I have the domain controller. Okay, I'm trying to join this machine to the domain, or my machine is not able to reach to the domain. So what could be the possible causes? You can always say, hey, did you update the DNS IP address in the VNet level? Okay, by default, it is going to take Azure provided DNS. But if your domain controller need to be reachable, you need to update the DNS server IP address here. This is a point you have to talk to the interviewer so that he knows that you are confident and you know the best practice, right? We already followed this best practice yesterday. We updated this IP address. This IP address is your domain controller IP address, or your DCVM IP address. This is the IP address 10.0.0.5. Okay. Now, if I try to join the server to the domain, I should not face any problem. Okay. To join the server to the domain, I just go to the properties, click on change settings, click on change here. Okay. I'm going to say the domain name. What is my domain name? It is Kamalakar Kamsani.com, right? I think there's a mistake here. All right, here, this one, Kamalakarkamsani.com. Here, I need to provide the domain admin credentials. So whom credentials I have to provide? Can anyone confirm, please? So is it Murli I can give, or I can give Josna, Riman, or Vishal credentials? So anybody can guess it? Who has domain admin credentials?
Vishal.
I think Vishal has it. Okay, or Viman also fine, right? So this is the UPN name, right? I'm going to use this and go here. This is the domain name and the username is Vishal, right? So that's it. We'll just copy this, go back to this and add it here. Okay, and the password is one simple 8123. I believe it should be reachable. Yes, this server is now part of the domain. Click OK. So to take these changes affected, so we need to reboot this machine. Okay, this is the DevOps VM. I'm going to restart this machine now. All right. Now I will go back to this and go to the computers, domain controllers. Let's see here, refresh here. You see my VM, which is joined to the domain, is available here. Okay. This is how you join the server to the domain. I mean, this is just, it's not your job team, but you should be aware just in case if you wanted to put at least 1 year experience into the, IT, right? Or if you wanted to know how they do it, this is what they do it. Okay. There can be more and more of activities that, Winter administrator do. Okay. These are the few of them where L1 engineer can do it. Okay. Now, now what we are going to do is, okay, we have this user account, Josna, Viman, and Vishal, and a couple of user accounts, right? We need to synchronize these to Azure Active Directory. So once we synchronize them, what we are going to do is we are going to give them access to a couple of cloud applications. This is my Azure AD, and I already did a custom domain verification in our previous sessions. Okay, so custom domain verification we have done. So same domain, I'm going to use it. All right. So what I will do is I'm going to download this Azure AD Connect and install it in the Azure in the virtual machine that we created for domain controller. So I'm downloading this exe. I can also download here directly in the domain controller. That's not a problem. But it's not recommended to use this um, DC for installing this. We need to have a separate standalone server or a different server to manage this Azure AD Connect. So since I don't want to get multiple machines, I'm going to install it in the domain controller itself, or so our domain or the Active Directory server itself. It's a 153 MB file. So you always, one more suggestion is if you have a large file that needs to be downloaded to the server, you just start downloading that from here itself. You just open the login to the Azure virtual machine and try to browse that exe and download it. It will be very quicker because it's going to use Azure bandwidth, network bandwidth, not your network bandwidth. Okay. I'm going to copy this to the server and paste it here. So I'm going to copy to C users and Azure user desktop. That's a location. And one more thing I need to do is I need to create one local user account in this server and provide him to the in the administrator access. Or I can just make this Azure user account, which I used to log into this machine as an administrator only. By default, I get access to uh, enterprise administrator and schema administrator, multiple access. I get it. Either I remove myself from those groups or I create one more account locally in this computer, in this server, because we are going to use that account to authenticate with on-premises AD while setting up this tool. Okay, let's see how what approach we want to follow. We'll decide on it. So we'll try to create, I've not created so far. We'll try to see if we can create this user account, or we will try to use the existing one only. What we will do is we will try to change the existing account permissions. Going to the Azure user, look for Azure user here. I think it is here. Okay, this user account has more privileges. Domain admin, enterprise admin, schema administrators, all these things. For now, I'm just removing it. But in the enterprise, I think you need to make somebody else as a schema administrator and all these permissions has to be modified before you make these changes or create a new test account. I really don't want to spend time on creating the new account. I'm just removing the permissions because it is a test. Okay, and I could have actually downloaded this file in my server itself because this copy is taking more time here. So what we'll do is we'll also do one more thing here. Just to avoid any other discrepancies, we'll just disable the enhanced security of Internet Explorer. I generally do what I do is I try to download the Chrome into the server so that it will be easy to manage it. Let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes for the copy to be completed. So while this is happening, so let's log into the Azure portal and get the global administrator credentials here. Okay, we need to have a global admin credentials. So I remember we have given access to the few users as a global administrator. Okay, so who are they? We need to check. So I
I
think
think for Akil we can.
yeah, I think so. For Akil, we can give, I think we already gave access. Go to assign roles. Yeah, Akil is a global administrator. We can use this account to, you know, reset. First, let me reset the password here because last time I did not save the password. Copy this. I'm going to copy into a notepad. This is the password and the username is this. So as you know that we need to first reset the password before we use it anywhere else, right? So I'm going to log into Azure portal again with this account and I'm going to reset the password. I'm going to use a generic password that is one simple at 123 now. When you are doing practice, please ensure that you are using this password so that in case if I need to check your labs, it will be easy for me to validate. Okay, so I am able to log in and the password is this. Okay, first now I think the copy is completed. So what I need to do is I need to install this tool, Azure AD Connect. Okay, so I agree and continue. Here there are two things here. Okay, one is customized and express settings. Recommended to use the customized settings because you have more options. Okay, express settings will take all default options. Okay, so I'm going to use customized settings. Okay, so this is the install required components page where you are going to specify the installation location. So if you wanted to use a specific location to install this, by default, this is the location it is going to choose to install this tool. If you wanted to change this, you can just come here and modify it. And it also uses SQL Server for database. So if you already have SQL installed, you can use those server details so that it will use the database to store the metadata information. So it also create a service account. If you already have an account that can be used as a service account, you can just use them. All right. And if you wanted to create specify different groups, I mean, by default it will create administrator group, operators group, browse groups, and password reset groups. If you already have these groups created, just provide the group names with the correct UPN. Okay. Then if you already have Azure AD Connect installed in any other environment, you wanted to import those settings, you can just select this option and provide the locations details, exported setting details. Then you can import from here. For now, I'm not going to use any one of them. Since this is a fresh installation, I'm going to use all default options. So I'm going to click on install now. Some of the best practices are, Unita VC++ 2019 and above. So to have this installation successfully completed. But if you are using Windows Server 2016 or above, definitely you will have them installed automatically. This take few seconds, so we just need to wait for some more time. Yes, so these are the configuration options, team. User sign in, how your user need to sign into Azure AD or cloud-based applications. Okay, what should be the user experience is what this page talks about it. So select the sign on method, right? Password hash synchronization, pass through authentication, federation with the ADFS, federation with the ping federate, or you do not want to configure the sign on. There is one more option to enable single sign on. Okay, we'll talk about this now. Password hash synchronization means it is going to synchronize the user ID and the hash of your password, which is like it's like encrypted format of your password. Okay, nobody can guess the password. It is more secured way of synchronizing the password to Azure AD. So then Azure AD store your credentials. Okay, credentials with the password hash. Okay, with this approach, if any user need to sign in to any cloud-based applications which are integrated with Azure Active Directory, the user authentication no need to redirect it to the on-premises AD, right? This is the AD, right? Your user account actually exists here, but with the password hash synchronization, we are synchronizing the user account along with the password hash. So Azure AD is going to store them. Azure AD is going to maintain this authentication part. You don't need your request no need to go back to the on-prem AD for authentication. With the pass-through authentication, what happens is, it's the anytime, okay, it's user ID, and user ID will be synchronized to on Azure AD. But anytime if the user need to authenticate, the request has to come back to the on-premises AD for authentication. Just in case if your on-premise AD is down, your users cannot log into Azure or cloud-based applications. But password has synchronization. If your on-premises AD is down, still no problem, because your Azure AD is online. It has the information to authenticate. Okay, it's better to go with the password has synchronization. It has more benefits. Federation with ADFS. If you have Active Directory Federation services configured in your environment, any authentication for cloud-based applications will be go back to the on-premises Active Directory Federation service, and in turn it gets the token from the Active Directory and provides the token to the application. So if you have ADFS configured, you are going to use it. Or if you have a federation with a ping federate, it's a company which provide the federation services, you can just go with them. So enable single sign-on, we'll configure the single sign-on for our Azure AD. We'll select this option, and we'll also select the password has synchronization. Okay, click next. So this is where you are going to authenticate with Azure AD, because we are going to integrate, right? We need to provide Azure AD credentials. In the next step, on-premise AD credentials. So for Azure AD credentials, we already have this ready. So I'm going to use them here. Okay. This is the user ID, and the password is one simple @123. Click next. It's verifying the global administrator credentials. It is. It's checking all the domains. It goes through various process steps. Now this is the time, we need to add our on-prem AD credentials. So what I need to do is, I'll go back to this, double click this Azure user. This is the domain name. And I'm going to use this. I think I should use the existing one. And the user account is Azure user, who is the administrator for this server, and password is same, one simplet 123. Now you see it is successfully added. You can add multiple forests or multiple domains as well here. Okay, right now we have only one, we are going with one. Click next here. So it is validating the domain kamalakarkamsani.com. It's already verified. We did verified in the last session through GoDaddy, our domain providers. So going to the next. So if you wanted to synchronize a specific OUs or a specific domains, you can choose this option. Let's see if I want a specific OUs, I just expand this and select the OUs which I need to synchronize. So we created few OU, one OU, right? Cloud users OU. If I don't want to synchronize all the OUs, I want to synchronize only one, I can just select this. Okay. But now I'm going to synchronize all domains and users. Okay. So uniquely identifying your users. If you have multiple forest, same user ID might be exist in different domains. So at the time you will go with this custom attribute where you are going to specify attribute as a object ID. Okay, object ID as a uh, identifier, object SID. Okay, for now I don't have that conflicts. I'm going with the default option. So here again, you have another option in case if you wanted to filter a specific users and devices, you have an option. You can just come here and search for those devices and the groups. So here I'm going to enable groups right back. Sorry, password right back. So in case if I reset the password for the users in the cloud, they can be synchronized back to the on-premises AD as well. Okay. And there will be one more setting where we are going to configure the single sign-on. So let's wait for a few seconds. It's taking time to load. I think we have not configured the single sign-on. We have to go back. Here I have to enter the credentials. This is where I have to provide the domain admin credentials. So I can use Vishal account here. Okay. And the same password. Okay. Click next and install it. So as soon as installation is completed, it is going to start the synchronization. In case if there are any failures, we need to restart the entire process. We just need to wait for a few more seconds to complete this. So we will install this tool and we'll validate the user accounts in the Azure and we'll provide them access to the Azure subscription. Then we'll have a quick test. Then we can drop off for today. And in next session, we are going to integrate few applications and provide the access to the users. So while this is happening, anyone have any questions on this topic? Okay, I'll take it as no. You can see here, you might have noticed AD sync admin, browse, operator, and password reset, password set. So these four accounts we have seen, sorry, not the user account, they are groups, right? We have seen them at the time of installation, right? So they are created. And there will be one service account that gets created as well. Yes, so everything looks good. I'll click exit here. The synchronization will start. So I just need to go for synchronization service here. It will show you the data export, full synchronization, and the full import. So those details you can see here. So one is from on-prem AD to Azure AD. This is on-prem AD, and this is the AAD part. Okay, it is doing the import and export both. All right. You can see how many objects are being synchronized and how many objects are newly added. In case if you add a new account, it will keep on showing you here. It will start synchronization. I think every 15 minutes, I believe there will be a default synchronization happens. You can also run a manual sync through a command. I can show you that in the next session. Okay, so in case if you disable any user account, it's a one of your user is terminated, right? And his account was given access to the cloud. Since we enabled pass through, sorry, password hash synchronization, though you disabled here, if the account is not synchronized to the cloud, you can still access the cloud-based applications. In such scenarios, the administrator, what he need to do is he need to run the manual sync to synchronize this policy to the cloud. So the user account will be disabled in on-premises as well as in the cloud as well. Okay. So now I will go back to the Azure AD and I'll just refresh here. I should be seeing the accounts that are come from on-prem AD. So directly synchronize synced always is yes, means it is synchronized from on-premises AD. I can add filter here. Filter type can be directly synced is equal to yes. Okay. If I say you see these four account and one service account, five accounts are synchronized to on-prem AD. Okay, what I can do is I can give them access to Azure subscription so that they can log into the Azure portal. Okay, I'll go to my subscription and I think I have to use different credentials to do that. Okay, I'm going to use this. Where's this? This one. Okay, this is the account subscription. This is I'm the owner of the subscription here. I'm going to access control, click on add role assignment, click on owner and select members. You can see here, I'm going to search for Vishal. So I can add access to one user account, but I don't want to do that. I want to give access to the groups, right? What is a group? Azure user groups. What was the group name? This is the one, right? Azure users. Click select. Next, assign this. Let me just check who all are there in this Azure users group. Not this one, this one. Member of, okay, nobody else. I think there is one more account, right? 80 users. In this, I think Vishal and Viman are part of it. So let me give access to that group. Owner, and here I'm going to say AD users group. Okay, guys. So now I'm going to give access as a owner for these users, this group. So users part of this group will have access to it. So now I'll go back to Azure Active Directory, going to the groups. You can see the AD users group. This is the group is here. And if I go to the members, I have 2 members here. Okay, I'm not able to add members from here, but I should be able to add from on-premises. I can go here and add new users. So to manage these groups better, right? What we do is will not give access in the Azure layer. We'll ask our Windows administrators to, manage these accounts. Okay, like, if any new user wanted to get access to the cloud or Azure, so we just ask them, you go to this and add users here. So I'm going to add Azure users, right? I'm going to add Josna and Murali as well, right? So these accounts should be synchronized, but I think since we added just now, it may not be synchronized now. If I go back to this groups, Azure users groups, and go to the members, now you don't see them. Though you added them, they're not available here. You need to run the manual sync. To run the manual sync, what do we do? We'll see. So there's no way here, I think, right? I think we can run it here. Select the on-premises and run this full synchronization. And we'll also run from the here as well, full synchronization. Okay, full export. I think we need to run the export, not the import. Okay, guys, we'll run both. This is one way to run manually. I think it is done. I'll just go back to Azure portal and just do a refresh. No, not yet. Azure users, members, not yet. So there will be one command, okay? Azure AD connect manual sync, okay? PowerShell, through PowerShell we can do it. So it is very simple and straightforward. Yes. This is the command. Yeah, let me log into the server. PowerShell. I think I should be by default administrator. Sorry. Okay, this is the command. And this is not this one. Delta. Okay, this is what I can do it. Just run this. It will import it and it is done. Now I should be able to see them here in the cloud. Probably I think I just need to refresh again. What I can do is I can go to Azure AD, go to the users. I think I need to go to this user. I just click on these groups. These 2 groups I'm not able to add manually. But that's fine. I think we'll just wait for some time to see if that is replicating. Okay. But meanwhile, Viman and Vishal have access, right? What I can do is I can log in with their on-premises credentials to log into Azure. So I'm going to log into Azure now. Okay. I think I have to close this Akil's account now. Now I can just try to log in. Portal.azure.com. I'm going to use Vishal account. Vishal@kamalakakamsani.com, right? It should be reachable. You see, it is reachable and background is changed. This is our custom. I mean, we have added or custom branding to the sign-in method. So that's why you're seeing all these things, background color and everything. Okay, now I'm going to log in. So I am inside the Azure portal. And if I go to the subscription, Vishal has got owner access. Okay, he's the owner. But where does this account exist? This account exists in the on-premises AD. Likewise, you keep on adding the access to the cloud applications to the users. Okay, so in the next session, what we are going to do is we are going to add or integrate some of the applications with the Azure Active Directory. Okay, then we'll test the application access, single sign-on. Then we'll also do one more thing. We'll also integrate with the Windows virtual desktops so that users can get access to WVD solution. Nowadays everybody is trying to access from home, and we concern about security, right? With the WVD solution, users can use their personal laptop to connect to the workload securely. So they will be provision a client operating system, and that can be accessed through a URL. Okay, once they log in, they can access their Outlook, Teams, or the regular operations. Okay, team.